Have you ever sat at a bus stop or on a park bench and noticed people on the go around you? The scene was buzzing with activity, right? People never stop, and neither does their creator. Sometimes we beg God to act as if he is still, but he is always moving, always at work. Not only do we get to celebrate his acts of love and redemption, but we actually get to join him in these good works. And there is nothing more life-giving than joining God as he moves. Here are some recent happenings at Kensington where we did just that. Just a few weeks ago, we gathered at Stony Creek Metro Park to celebrate over 200 people as they were baptized. Let me tell you, one of the most beautiful things you can witness in someone's life is that breathtaking moment when they break through the water surface, rising up to stand again, but this time with new life in Jesus.
I feel like this is my time to recommit to God and to follow his path and to build a new family. And I'm more than happy to do that, and it's just a blessing to be here.
Our own organization, Hope Water Project, exists to bring clean, life-giving water and the hope of Jesus to the parched communities of the Pocock. In June, Hope Water Project held its annual 5K and Kids Run, but this time it was at our own Troy campus, and we saw a lot of community involvement. From the residents of Emerald Lakes Village who cheered the runners on, to the families from Hamlin Elementary that came out for the Kids Run, to the Troy Police Department who worked tirelessly to redirect traffic. These 800 walkers and runners didn't sit still. They got up and moved, and because of it, 2 wells will be dug in Kenya, which will impact thousands.
It isn't just running, we're running for what? A purpose.
God cares about family, about all those struggles and victories at home. And he consistently moves in hearts at our annual Rock Your Family retreat. This July, over 400 people took time away to reconnect as a family and to make Jesus the foundation of everything they're building. There are hundreds of Jesus stories, but here's one. One dad and his young stepson attended Rock Your Family after a challenging and stressful year for their family. For them, it was life-giving. They rested, they played, and they left closer to one another and to the heart of Jesus. Maybe you already know about Kaleo Kids and how the arts are being brought to elementary children in our local partner schools. But you may not realize just how powerfully God is using this program to build confidence and intentional friendships. Kaleo Spark Camp, a day camp held at Orient Campus in August, gave our kids an outlet to use their talents to dance and sing about God's great love for us. At Kensington, we embrace diversity, including our community of friends with special needs. A few weeks ago, we held an epic party, a hoedown in fact, and the joy that lit up the faces of our guests was contagious.
Personally, I have so many friends in this community, and for me to be on stage tonight and have all Andre and Chris and both Marks and everyone around us dancing, boy, I'll tell you, man, it just absolutely blew my heart wide open.
Twice a year, we come together to be refreshed, inspired, and mobilized in our leading and serving. Our most recent leadership gathering was on August 28th at Troy campus. We heard from Steve Andrews and Danny Cox on the topic of unity, and we experienced incredible music from our worship team. God moved through all of it, and we left energized to continue on this mission to share Jesus.
A community of believers who are all bind at one. We're not perfect, but we're all in it together.
I never really thought about how much change can actually take place if people are united together and loving each other while doing that.
I have now had half a lifetime to watch these Jesus stories unfold. I reflect back on the beginning when we wondered if Jesus would ever do something with us at all. And he has answered that hope with an avalanche of blessing and purpose. Today we shared a handful of stories from recent months, and they represent just a fraction of the thousands of stories of life change happening all around us. And honestly, I wish I could tell you all of them. But here's what I want you to know. When we focus on the one that God's brought to us, he allows us together to reach thousands. And with Jesus, not one person is overlooked. It's humbling to be a part of this church, this community of people on mission. And I keep shaking my head in surprise that he has allowed us to join him as he resurrects lives, rebuilds communities, and redeems stories. And it's all because of people. People simply making themselves available to Jesus and taking a step of faith. And it's certainly not because we've done it all right. He delights to work through us despite our many weaknesses and fumbles. One of the verses we've always loved is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Every time I read that or say it, I realize how outrageous it really is. This is what Jesus promises? Yes, and he keeps doing it. And most often, he takes our greatest weakness as the starting point for his work in us. So as we look forward to this new season of ministry, let me ask you, what's your next step? Is it time to commit to showing up? Or if you've been doing that for a while now, maybe it's time to get connected by jumping into a group, a course, or a care initiative. Or maybe God's been nudging you to move out and bring his love to a person or a place in desperate need of hope. I speak for our whole team that our greatest longing for you is to fully experience Jesus working through you, to move with him, to join in what he's doing, to lock arms with us. And when we connect together, we become so much more than we were before. So let's open ourselves to Jesus. Let's open those deep places to him where we hold tight to our hesitations and fears. Through Jesus, we really are able. We're able to add these incredible thousands of stories of life change. And this is your invitation to join us on this mission to reach the one.
I would really love to champion what Steve was saying in the video about all the things that we get to celebrate that God is doing. And we know that those things that we saw in the video are just highlights. And like you know, I'm sure you know just like we know that there's so many other things that are happening here in this community as well as globally. And so we're so excited about it, and we hope that you're excited about it too. My name is Aaron Jones. I'm the Worship Arts Director here at Clinton Township. And if this is your first time coming to Kensington, or maybe you've been coming for a while, we love to stop and just say welcome. We're so glad that you chose to join us today, and we hope that this can be a place that you can call home. I am here to share a couple of opportunities that we have coming up here at Kensington. And if you've been here the past couple of weeks, maybe you've heard me say it before, or you've heard someone else say that we're preparing for our fall launch for groups. And this week is actually the week that those groups kick off. And so what groups are is an opportunity for this large church to seem a lot smaller and more connected, like a community with people that you can get to know a little bit deeper. And so we have one that I would love to share with you. It's our Alpha course. And so maybe you have questions, maybe you're just a little bit curious about what this whole faith thing is, and you've been coming for a while and saying, hey, I've been hearing you talk about Jesus, but I just want to know a little bit more. Or maybe you've been a little seasoned in your faith and you want to say, hey, I want to build a stronger foundation in my faith. Well, this course is for you. This is an opportunity for you to come together in community, to have food, to have fellowship, and really talk about Jesus and the other questions that you may be bringing up to the table. So I would love to invite you into that. Now, not only do we have groups, but we also have different ways for you to serve here in our community. And so one of the opportunities that I would love to share with you is our McRest program. And McRest, this is actually our 11th year doing this. It stands for Macomb County Rehabilitation Emergency Shelter Team. Okay, maybe I got it right. Maybe I did it. I always miss one of the words, so bear with me. Anyways, this is an opportunity for us to really open up these doors to this building to about 30 women and their children who are experiencing homelessness. And so we have the great task of feeding them and praying with them and pouring into them and just loving on them. And in the past years, this has involved over 250 volunteers who have signed up and said, hey, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of speaking to that community and really just pouring in. So many different things, from bringing food to just being here in the building when the families are here. And so I would love to encourage you, if you want more information on how to sign up, you can go out to the lobby. There is a table out there, but you can also go to our website at kensingtonchurch.org/McRest. Now, if you're trying to write down or keep track of all the things that I'm talking about, we do have an area out in the lobby for you to catch up on all that information. It is called the Hub. There's people out there with orange shirts and signs of their name, and they're ready to welcome you and just get to know you and say hello and answer any of the questions that you have, as well as share more information about what's up and coming. Now, every year we do welcome a handful of people from different ages and different backgrounds, and they join us in this building in our different campuses at interning for 10 months. And so they're coming in and partnering in different departments where they feel called and led to, and they have one-on-one mentors who pour into them and pray for them and really show them the way. And so we have 8 of those interns that actually come from this campus, and 7 of them are here today, and I would love to invite them out to introduce them to you. So they're going to come out. Yeah. And as they're coming out, I would just love for them to say their name and say what department they're interning in.
Hi guys, my name is Faith Barroway, and I am interning with Kaleo Kids.
Hi, my name is Gavin Bourgeois, and I'm interning with Student Ministries.
Hey guys, my name is Kesley Krajewski. I'm also interning with Student Ministries.
Hi, my name's Emerson Korleski, and I'm interning with our young adults group 1829.
Hi, my name is Allison Lair, and I'm also interning with 1829.
My name is Evan Moss, and I am interning with Music Direction.
My name is David Sellers, and I'm interning with Student Ministries and 1829, which is our young adult ministry that meets Tuesdays at 7 at Troy.
Shameless plug. Well, I just want to encourage you guys, if you see them out in the hallway or at different events around Kensington, I want to encourage you to encourage them. There's so many things that they're sacrificing through this 10 months that we don't even know about, and it takes a lot of prayer and a lot of finances to really pull this off. And so I just want to encourage you to stop them, pray with them, talk with them, get to know them, and pour into them just as they're spending these next 10 months here. Can we celebrate them one more time? Well, before we move on in our service, I would love to have each of you stand up and say hello to the people around you.
The sun's always rising, but you'd rather keep hiding from the loss that you've endured. Is anyone listening? Or are we all walking past each other's open doors? But you've got a song to sing that nobody else can bring. Today's a brand new start. To anyone who's ever had a broken heart, you don't have to stay alone. No matter who went away and left you on your own, all because you've got a song to sing that nobody else can dream. And if you don't sing it, then no one else will. It's only your song to sing. Now the time's come for you to recognize who you are and what you want to do. And each day presents a choice, whether to hide your dreams or give yourself a voice, or because you've got a song to sing that nobody else can dream. You may not sing loud and you may not feel proud, oh, but what's there to lose? You've just got to choose to sing, 'cause you've got a song to sing.
I really believe that God has created each and every one of you with special gifts and talents that this world needs. But I think sometimes we have a hard time believing that about ourselves due to our insecurities, rejection, failure, and fear. Sometimes we need someone that will come alongside us and that will show us, that will encourage us, and that will remind us of who God has created us to be. We need that. And sometimes we need to be that for someone else. Will you pray with me? God, we just thank you so much for this opportunity to be here together today. And I just pray that you would speak to each heart here, that we'd see who we are in you, God, that we dive a little deeper in this relationship with you, Jesus, and to pull out what you have put inside of us, how you've created us, how you've designed us, God, and that we would live a life like you live. We love you so much, God. In your precious and holy name, amen. Amen. Well, good morning, everyone. Or afternoon. It is afternoon. Oh my gosh, that's been my day, right? It just keeps going. Well, my name is Shauna, and I'm the production manager here at Clinton Township. And there's many opportunities I get to come up here and say, welcome to Kensington, and tell you about the different opportunities that we have. But I just wanted to share a little bit more about who I am before I get to share the message with you guys today. So I have a picture of my family I'm going to show you. I've been married to my husband, Ryan. It will be 18 years this fall. Yes, thank you. I know. Woo! Love my husband. Yes, and then I have two boys. Caden is my oldest, and he's in 7th grade, and my youngest, Pax, is in 4th grade. Yesterday was Caden's birthday, so we celebrated him big time yesterday, and I always think it's a celebration for parents. You made it another year parenting, right? But I met my husband working at a church. We both were in ministry, and then we met, we kind of continued on, and we were actually like youth pastors for about 20 years. And in that, we actually spent a couple years overseas doing missions work in New Zealand, working with student ministries in a church plant, and truly have been on just one crazy adventure with God throughout our lives, and I'd say our marriage for sure. And I'm really thrilled and thankful to be part of the community here at Kensington. And at this time, I want to invite the ushers to come on down. We're going to receive our offering at this time. And if this is your first time here, you're just visiting, this moment is not for you, so do not pay attention. This is for those of us that call Kensington home. And there's different ways that you can give. You can give in the pouch as it passes by. You can go online. You can go to our app. You can text Kensington to 77977 and just follow the prompts. If you're watching online, you can actually click on one of the links there. And we do want to say thank you. Thank you so much for your faithful giving and just trusting God with your finances and trusting the leadership of this church. So today we are concluding a series called The Color of Your Dishes. And this series is all about discipleship, what it means to be a disciple. And if this is the first time you're joining us, to kind of catch you up to speed, a disciple means to be a learner, a follower, that you are going along life with somebody to learn something from somebody or something. So the idea that you are doing life with somebody infers that, you know what, you've probably been in their home. And if you've been in their home, you probably know the color of their dishes. Now, when you think about it, a good portion of our life is actually spent learning. We're learning from somebody or something, right? Like knowledge gets passed on through courses and groups and books and teaching, right? The working trades can get passed on through like a family business or going to school once again or just through the business itself. Many of the values that we hold is because they've been passed on through our family. Behaviors get passed on through relationships. And our faith should get passed on too. Now, the whole idea of getting something passed on is we're learning from someone who's further along in the journey than us. And we even see this in movies like Star Wars. Do we have Star Wars fans? Yes, I know. My husband was already talking about counting down to see the next movie, right? Star Wars, it's this huge franchise, but we watch one of the ultimate mentors, right? Yoda, okay? He mentors the young Luke Skywalker. Now, he's not saying, Luke, I'm discipling you, because that's kind of a church phrase that we've coined. But it's the same thing. So it's kind of interchangeable, this whole idea of discipleship or mentoring. So you have Yoda with Luke, and then if you think of like the Karate Kid, there's some young, scrawny kid who's nothing, who becomes the Karate Kid because he was mentored, right? We watch this coming of age experience where their mentor imparts all their wisdom and challenges them to become everything they were destined. And we love it. We resonate. We're like, yeah, I want to be that for someone. I want to do that. I want that. But also, we love it because I think we understand the value of learning something from someone who is farther along. We understand that professionally, personally, and spiritually. But if we're honest, the hard part is actually taking the time to teach or to be taught. Our lives are very busy. I know mine is. I talk to some of you guys, and things are, it's always constant. I was just thinking back to this week. So Wednesday, I did my normal routine. I got up, got my oldest going, and he was off to school, then the youngest off to school, then I'm off to work here. So we're doing the work stuff. And then there were some changes, some plans for midweek. So we're kind of in a different mode. We're like, okay, we got to do this, do this. I'm racing home to go make sure my oldest is home. Okay, have you started your homework yet? Okay, cool. The youngest comes home. Okay, what do you have for homework? Okay, so Kaden, you have soccer. We need to get your soccer uniform going. Are you doing your homework? I have to leave in 5 minutes, guys, okay? Are you doing it? Okay. Then I'm traveling back to church here for midweek, and I'm calling my husband saying, tag, you're it, right? And then the day continues. We're very busy people. It's constant. And part of our lives, we're actually almost forced to be intentional, to be learning. Like in our profession, many of you, you're probably encouraged to become better at your job, right? To either move up the ladder or just become better at what you do. It's the very nature of what family is. If we're in a healthy family setting, we are encouraging each other to be a better version of ourselves, right? That's what it's about. And I think we understand that this is important spiritually, but sometimes we have a harder time actually being intentional about that. And that's what the series is all about. It's the importance of being intentional in our relationships, because I think that's how God designed us to live, was in relation with each other. That's what it's about. So it's important to be in a discipleship, mentorship relationship where we are intentional. Because the heart of discipleship is for us, for you, to become everything God has designed and created you to be, to live that life and to live a life like Jesus. And we see this type of relationship all throughout Scripture. The Bible is littered with examples. So we have Moses, who discipled Joshua. Eli mentored Samuel. Elijah mentored Elisha. Jesus hung out with 12 guys that we know as the disciples. Paul hung out with Titus and Timothy and a few others. But not only do we see them just have this relationship where I'm giving you some knowledge or some skills to help you be better, but we actually see life transformation. So how? How do these relationships produce life transformation? I think it comes down to this truth. Transformation is caught more than it is taught, and it has to be earned before it can be learned. So if something is caught more than it is taught, it means that you have seen someone's life, you've lived up close to them to catch it. It's not just some knowledge that we've spewed out, but you've been there. You're part of the life, so you're catching it. There's influence there. And the idea that something has to be earned before it can be learned simply means that we have to be willing to sacrifice the time and the energy to put that effort into being intentional in a relationship with someone. Because seeing it lived out is a much better way of learning something than just being told. Now, parents in the room, you can probably agree with this. Because once you have your kid from the tiniest little baby, we're teaching them things, right? All through life, we are teaching them things. It does not stop. Some lessons feel like, I've taught you this 1,000 times, like put your garbage in the garbage can. Will they ever learn, right? We continually to teach. But when we begin, we're like your numbers, your colors. My husband thought it'd be funny for a while to teach our kids the animals the wrong way. Like a cow is called a horse. We call a pig a cow. But I'm really excited that my kids know their animals. Cow is cow in our house, right? But we're teaching them. We teach them things. But they also copy us. They catch what we are doing, who we are. I mean, if you've watched your kids, they probably say things like you say it. They do their mannerisms. Sometimes it's really cute. You're like, oh my gosh. And other times you're like, that is a mini version of me. That's crazy, right? I know my husband and I, we have kind of like nicknames for each other and how we all talk to each other, like, hey, babe, love, all that kind of stuff. And I can remember a few years back, we were going out, and so, we're out, and my youngest was probably around 3, and so we do the greeting, to our friends, hi, how are you? And, you do the nudge with your kids, like, say hello to the people that you really don't know. Okay, and this is what I get. Hi, sexy. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I did not teach him that. I did not teach you that. You do not say that to an adult, right? Now I need to teach him. I didn't teach that. He caught it, right? It was the influence of my husband and I. Hey, babe, how are you today? Hey, sexy, you're looking good. I like my husband. We talk to each other like that. It's for a relationship of adults, not for a little child to call some basically stranger. But why did he catch that? He was copying just what he saw. Because we have the biggest influence in his life. I'm his parent. I'm the influencer there. So if we want to be intentional in relationships and have influence so that our life is caught, we have to be willing to spend the time in that relationship. It's essential. So what does an intentional relationship then look like? We're going to look at an example from the New Testament. And it's the relationship between Paul and Timothy. Now, Paul, if you don't know who he is, he's kind of a radical guy, okay? Like, he got his life changed by Jesus, and he is on fire, right? Like, he is passionate. He's like, everybody needs to know who Jesus is and his message. So he would travel and tell people. And so he meets Timothy along the way, and basically he's like, Timothy, come on, come do this with me. And so they work together, but they're kind of doing life together. And so in the New Testament, we have some letters that Paul wrote Timothy, and we're going to pick up in 2 Timothy in one of his letters. And this is in chapter 3. It says in verse 10, but you, Timothy, certainly know what I teach and how I live and what my purpose in life is. You know my faith, my patience, my love, my endurance. You know how much persecution and suffering I've endured. You know all about how I was persecuted in Antioch, Iconium, and Lystra. But the Lord rescued me from it all. So he's saying, Timothy, you know these things. You know about my faith. You know about my passion. You know about my patience. And you know it because we have spent the time together. We have done life together, so you know the things about me. So the question, who knows what your life is like? Who knows how you live out your faith in the workplace? Who knows you so well that they know what your faith looks like in your home with your family? That knows and understands some of the hardships that you face? That appreciates and encourages the passions that you have? Who knows the color of your dishes? Then Paul goes on in verse 14, he says, but you must remain faithful to the things that you have been taught. You know they are true, for you know you can trust those who taught you. You have been taught the Holy Scriptures from childhood, and they have given you the wisdom to receive the salvation that comes by trusting in Christ Jesus. So Paul asks Timothy to remain faithful to what he's been taught. And he says you can remain faithful to it because you can trust who taught you. Now, the more time you spend with someone, the more likely you are to trust them. I don't think many of us would walk up to a stranger and just go, blah, here's my deepest, darkest secrets of my soul, right? Because there's no way, because we don't know them. I don't trust that person. But when you are in a relationship with them, you build trust. And then I can trust what they say and what they do. So when they want to tell me something, I can trust that because I've seen their character played out. I've seen it. I know it. I think back to my very first job working at a church, and I worked with a guy named Mike, and it really became like a mentorship style relationship. Now, he gave me lots of tips and gave me so much wisdom in just working at a church and working in ministry with students and working with the students' parents and all of that kind of stuff. But he also had a really huge impact on me as a person in my soul. And I allowed that because I saw his character. I saw who he was because I got to do life with him. I saw how he was with, yes, we're working together, but I saw how he was on a Saturday night hanging out with his family. I saw his character played out when things were going really good and we were excited and things were awesome, but I saw it when things were hard. I saw when there was heartbreak in his life. He wasn't perfect, but I saw him always come back to Jesus, pick himself back up, that he lived a life to the best that he could of grace, that he lived out love. And because I got to know him and got to know his character, I could trust him. So I could trust him when he would say, hey, Shauna, I see this. Or when he would start digging deep into my life because I knew who he was. And Paul shows this to Timothy. He's saying, I want you to keep learning by emulating my life. Keep watching me. And we see this in 1 Corinthians 11:1. Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. Philippians 4:9 says, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice. So Paul is basically telling Timothy, hey, let me be your role model. Copy my life. So for us, if we really want to be intentional in a relationship and really say, okay, I want to go into a discipleship style relationship, that should be our heart too. Imitate me as I imitate Christ. We need to be someone whose life reflects Jesus if we want any hope of giving that away to somebody else. We see it again in 2 Thessalonians. It says, follow our example. Follow me as I follow Christ. And so the first principle today, if we really want to be intentional in a relationship of mentoring, of discipling, the first thing is I lead by example. I lead by example. Teach, mentor. These facets are indispensable in a mentorship style relationship. If we really want to help produce and devote to become fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ, we have to then have that. And if we want to be able to give that to someone else to say, here, this is my faith, I want you to also get a piece of this, that has to be there. And it goes without saying, if that's what our heart is, we also can't have any hint of hypocrisy. There can't be this do what I say but not what I do. Now, that can feel like a little bit of pressure. You might be going, Shauna, that's a lot. You're saying I'm supposed to lead by example and not have any hypocrisy. Okay, yes, but it's not about being perfect because I mess up, right, all the time. It's not about being perfect in a relationship. It's not saying do this because this is exactly how you do it. And it's not saying you need to know a lot. Leading by example feels like I should know. I should be a leader then. I don't feel like a leader. No, you are. But it's not about how much you know. So you don't have to memorize 200 verses before you can begin discipling someone. It's the heart of it. It's saying, follow me. I love Jesus, and I'm going after him with everything that I know and everything that I have. So come along with me on this journey. Watch me live it out. I'm going to mess it up. I'm telling you, like right now, I'm going to mess up. But you're going to watch me find my way back to Jesus. You're going to watch me figure this out because he's my everything. So come along with me. Because it's important that we teach what is right and true, but the most important thing is that we live it out to the best of our ability. And we want to share a story with you this morning of a good friend of ours here at Kensington, and his name is Mike Mullenix, and just the impact of an intentional relationship in his life. So watch this.
Memories of music were back in the mid-'80s when I was like 3-4 years old, riding around in Panama City, Florida, in the back of my mom's 1985 Camaro, listening to Van Halen and Phil Collins and Michael Jackson and all the awesome pop music that came out throughout the 80s. I had a buddy named Brandon who started playing electric guitar, and he was really good. He picked it up really fast. I watched him one time play with a band, and he played like Freebird by Leonard Skinner. And when it got to the guitar solo, and I actually saw somebody my age like doing that, actually playing that guitar solo, I was like, my mind was just blown, like completely. Like I was like, I want to be able to do that, and I want to do it better than him. One day I just decided, I was like, I don't want to just play live. I want to like be in the recording studio. I've seen pictures of these things, and it looks like a really cool environment. It's usually cool rooms with like fabric on the wall and like really expensive looking mixer consoles and these kinds of things. And I was like, I want to learn more about that. And growing up in Nashville, I mean, there's a recording studio and a church on every corner. So I really just one day decided to have my mom take me out when I was 15 years old. And I went and I knocked on this door of a place that I knew was a recording facility in Franklin. It's called the Border Recording Studios. It was owned by John Lowry. And I remember John opening the door that day. I knocked on the door and I was like, hey, mister, I'm Mike, and I'm 15 years old, and I want to learn about recording. And John looked at me and kind of smiled like, okay. He was like, you know what? Why don't you come back Monday, and then we'll have a talk. This relationship with John lasted for the next 4 years. I started as like an intern that was there observing and worked all the way up to somebody that was helping to manage the recording studio and assist on certain things. As I look back on it now, it was completely foundational to what I was going to need in order to do what it was Kensington was going to ask me to do one day. Everything that I'm doing now is something that he helped start in me. Because I walked in literally knowing nothing and made a ton of mistakes, and he would sit down alongside me and actually show me, this is how you go about making a recording. This is how you place a microphone. This is how you choose what mic to use. This is how you work with an artist. This is how you work with a producer. So John Lowry was like immensely pivotal in two areas of my life. In the actual craft, the actual showing me how do you run a recording studio. But he used to also care about me more than just as a potential recording engineer one day. He used to sit down and talk to me about Jesus. And it was at a time where I was going to church on Sunday and not thinking anything more of it. My parents went through a tough patch in their marriage, and I used to talk to John about that. And him and his wife would sit down with me and read the Bible and say, this is what the Lord says about being at peace. This is what the Bible says about what a marriage looks like. There were times where I really failed John. I remember one of the very first projects that I was ever in there observing, like a good intern would sit in the back, take some notes, look at what the producer's doing and the engineer's doing, and try and stay out of the way as much as possible, and just thank the Lord that you had the opportunity to be in there while these guys that are getting paid to do this, to put legit records out, are doing it. I, in my beautiful, naive way, decided in the middle of the recording session to start throwing some background vocal ideas out. Like, I think of it now, and it's so humiliating, but I remember being like, yeah, I got an idea in that second verse, Mr. Producer. Why don't you try this? And the whole room just looked at me like, who's this guy? Like, where's John? Get him out of here, And so John came and got me in, and I was like, what? I felt like their idea wasn't very good, and they needed a better one. And he laughed, and he was like, okay, here's the deal. If you ever do that again, you're gone. And now let me explain to you why. And so he sat down and he said, there are things like fears. There are producers with jobs. People are spending money. They have worked on this before they ever got here. There's a whole thing that a producer is navigating in a recording studio between the players and the client and everything, and all this stuff comes together to make a recording. And when somebody who's not in the middle of that starts offering their opinions or their voices, it can really be detrimental to the progress of the session. Well, I had no idea. And so instead of him being like, hey, dude, guess what? It didn't work out. Why don't you hit the road and maybe come back once you learn how to handle yourself in here? He decided instead to sit with me and say, here's what you did. Here's why it didn't work. And here's what you could do next time. And one specific thing that he told me once that has always stuck with me was, he goes, one day as I was like getting ready to go off to college, he said like, hey, Mike, I just want to tell you something. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? He goes, the reason I'm doing all of this is because at some point somebody decided to invest in me. And, I have my set of influencers. And I have the guys that were even willing to walk alongside me as I was learning. He goes, you're going to step into an area where I've decided to do the same thing with you. And there's going to come a point in time where it's going to be time for you to do the same thing with somebody else. Does it have 12 channels on that panel? You're in 14? As I think about what my job is now, the things that I picked up from John that I really hope are evident in my work are commitment to it being excellent and it being done well, commitment to loving the people that you're working on it with, and commitment to saying that, like, who's coming up after you? Who are you teaching what it is that you're doing? Because you're not always going to be here to do it. I would hope that as I continue moving forward with the different creative endeavors and the different projects I'm going to be doing for Kensington, that those criteria are always met. Sounds good. Cool.
It's a great example, yeah, of just the impact of being intentional in a relationship. It really is. And the more time we spend with someone, the more we live life with them and lead by example and help someone become a fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ, not only are we able to hopefully impart that into them, but we're also given another opportunity. I even consider it a privilege. And that's that we are able to help encourage, inspire, and help people see who God has created them to be. And out of 2 Corinthians 5:16 we read, it says, so we have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. At one time we thought of Christ merely from a human point of view. How differently we know him now. So for those of you here that consider yourself a Christ follower, I'm sure there was a point in your life where you thought of God as X, right? He was a mean God. He was an angry God, or you just felt like God was in a box. But as you have a relationship with him, as you've been going on this faith journey and growing and diving deeper and deeper, you're seeing new things and you're like, oh my gosh, God's not X. He's not that. No, he's amazing. He's totally different. He's opposite of all of that. He is love. He's joy. He's peace. He's grace and forgiveness. That he is hope. Now, if you're here today and you're still kind of checking out church and God, that's totally fine. I would really encourage you, though, to dive in. Start exploring that. Go on a journey of figuring out who God is. This is a great place to do it. This is a safe place. You're welcome to ask your questions here, and there are people here that would love to support you and go on that journey with you. But for those of us that are on that journey, we're in a relationship with Jesus Christ, there was a point where we saw him kind of like this. And as we are getting to know him, as we are intentional in our relationship with him, we see him in new ways. And this verse is saying, do the same with each other. It's easy to perceive someone like this and see the smallness and just see a little bit of them. But when we are intentional in a relationship, we get to dive in deeper. We get to go below the surface and see who they really are. We get to see that and see the greatness of who God has created them to be. And sometimes it's what we can't even see in ourselves. We need that person to do that. We need someone to say that. Now, it's really easy to kind of go through life kind of at a surface level in our relationships, right? And it even feels okay. It's not bad. I can still be happy in my relationships. I can see the good in someone. I can even see sometimes the talents and see some other cool things. I can see, like, well, John, you're a great guitarist. And then you'll see some things that you don't like. There'll be some uncomfortable moments, but you probably would be okay with life. But when we decide to be intentional and say, you know what, I'm going to go into a discipleship mentality, I'm going to live life like that, we get to go below the surface. And one of the key facets to that is actually something we talked about last week. So if you weren't here, I would highly encourage you to watch that online. And we talked about being vulnerable and just being authentic. I like to think of it as almost like an iceberg. So you have an iceberg and you can see it, right? Like, that looks pretty awesome. It's amazing, really. I mean, look at the formation. There's beauty in that. And if it was like a relationship, like if that was a person, I could be like, hey, Iceberg Joe, you look amazing. You're really cool. Because you're cold, you live in the Arctic. Yeah, no, I'm cheesy. So just, yeah, it's fine. I know that's wrong. But you just see that much, right? I'm on the surface, so I can see you. I see you, but that's probably all I know. But when we are intentional in a relationship, we get to go below the surface. And then we see, like, oh my gosh, Iceberg, look at you. Look at the magnitude of who you are. Look how God created you. You're huge. It's amazing. Wow, did you know that? Did you see that, Iceberg? That's what we get to do with each other. When I'm intentional in a relationship, I get to see what's on the surface, but then I can go deeper. I get to dive in and I can see who God has created you. See the things that maybe you can't see in yourself, the gifts, the talents, how He's wired you and shaped you. So when we are intentional, we get to shout someone's worth. We get to say, man, this is how God made you. It's amazing. Look at how incredible you are. And not only that, not only do we get to see it, but we get to be a part of helping pull it up out of the water. Because what good is it if it just stays under the water? But when I'm intentional in a relationship, I can say, I can see this in you. Let's bring it up. Let's bring it closer to the surface. Come on, He's got something. He wants to do something in and through you. He wants that. So the first principle was, I lead by example. Copy my life. Watch me. The second one is, I see you and I believe in you. I see something in you that maybe you cannot see in yourself. I see the gifts and the talents. And we are given that privilege when we have spent time with people, when we have been intentional in our relationship. We are able to go beyond the surface. We get to see the gold in them, and we really get to say, I believe in you. And when we believe in someone, we actually get to encourage them. You almost get to be like an obnoxious cheerleader just for that person. Now, when you think of encouragement, it's not like a compliment. I think too many times that's where we sit in our encouragement, right? I can say, yeah, your hair looks nice, and you'll be like, oh, great, thank you. But that's not encouraging. Think of encouraging as encourage. Impart courage to someone. Help give them the courage to live out the life that God has designed them to live. Give them the courage. Let them see it. Because for so many of us, we don't see it in ourselves. Life has happened. We don't feel it. Too much insecurity. There's so many things that we go, there's no way. Be a person intentionally saying, I'm giving you the courage to live out who God has created you to be. Help inflate them. I think of it as a balloon, right? So when you're intentional in a relationship, you're going to help inflate them. You're going to be like, you're an influencer. You're a leader, and you keep inflating them. You keep telling them who God has created them to be. You're like, this is how God has wired you. I see it. I see the creative side in you. I see how you are with other people. And as you keep inflating them, they fill up and they start believing it. And then they actually help soar. You help them fly. You put that in them. You get to be a part of that. Because we are intentional. We take the time to see each other and believe in each other. I think of my friend Ariana. I met her a couple years ago working in student ministries. And she was a very shy, very quiet, very insecure girl. I mean, to the point where she literally just kind of stood along the wall. Like, she didn't want to be seen. Like, she just wanted to blend in and kind of be like, don't notice me. And so, of course, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go talk to her. And so we had a conversation, and that conversation led to relationship. And I was very intentional in that relationship. And how I was intentional was by going into her world. So I'd ask her, like, hey, Ariana, what are you doing Friday night? Oh, I'm going to the football game. I'm going to go watch my school play. Cool, I'm going with you. I'm going to go in the stands. I'll sit there and cheer with you. Got to meet her friends. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going to go grab, coffee. Cool, I'll go. Why don't I take you up for coffee? Hey, you like shopping? Yeah, I love shopping. Want to go to Target? Of course I'll go to Target. Twist my arm, right? No, but I would go into her world, investing into her. But at the same time, I'm inviting her into my world. I'm like, hey, what are you doing Saturday night? Oh, nothing. Well, why don't you come hang out with us? My family, we're just going to be watching movies at home. And it wasn't like when you invite someone over, right, where you were like, I got to clean the kitchen, the living room, and the bathroom because those are the rooms they're going to be in, right? We all know that. No, it was, come be a part of my home, be part of my family. She saw the color of my dishes. She saw my dirty dishes, like really, in the sink. And through this, it was this back and forth and me saying, come alongside. And the more time we spent together, the more trust was built up, and the more I was able to go in and see who she was. The parts of her that she wasn't even sure about, the parts that she had, I was able to see. God let me see in that. And then I started to inflate her. I see a leader in you. Oh, I don't think so. No, Ariana, I see how the younger girls look up to you. You are a person of influence. I could never do that. Yes, you can. You can lead. You can lead these girls. You can lead in your school. You can lead in your home. We get to inflate that. We get to breathe it. We get to say, I see you and I believe in you. And it's just like the song the team sang earlier. You've got a song to sing. We get to tell that to people. We have an opportunity when we are intentional to say, you have a song to sing. You have gifts. You have talents. God has created you for a purpose. Let's see you live it out. Now today we're concluding this series, and it's been a 3-week series. But that does not mean in no way that discipleship is a 3-week process. It'd be great if it was. And in 3 weeks, we can learn some things. But discipleship is a journey. It takes time. Just like what we talked about at the beginning, that sometimes we feel like we don't have. It takes time if we want to be intentional. And discipleship is twofold. And by that I mean that we should always be in a position of this. One hand up, cupped. That someone is pouring into you. Someone's pouring into your cup. Someone is further along in the journey of life and their walk with Jesus that knows more, has more wisdom, is pouring into you, and they're pulling you up, right? They're pulling you up above the surface. They're helping you see who God has created you to be. While at the same time, we are like this, that we are pouring out. We are giving out everything that we've got of our relationship with Jesus. And not that it's perfect, but it's saying, you know what? Here, I love Jesus and I'm going after him with everything I've got. I'm living the best life that I can for him, so come along with me. Come on this journey as I explore his freedom, his love, his joy, and what this is all about. Come with me. Come. And at the same time, you're pulling them up because you're like, hey, I see who God has created you to be. So you're always in a stance of this. It's not one or the other. It's both and. It's both and. So ask yourself, who are you pouring into? Who's pouring into you? I actually think that last question is the harder one. Who's pouring into you? I think the older we get in life, sometimes that feels a little bit more awkward. We almost get scared. We're intimidated. I mean, what do? Do you literally walk up to someone and go, mentor me? It feels strange, I get it. But don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you from being intentional in your relationships. And one of the great resources we have here, if you're like, I'm not too sure if I have any relationships that are like that, our groups here are a great way to get connected and to begin a journey with some other people. We have groups that meet on different nights of the week, times for different seasons of life. And if you are not connected, and if you don't feel like you have that in your life, I would highly encourage you to stop by the table after service. The team is there. They would love to talk to you, help you get you connected. I know Tuesday nights I'm here with the encounters and I have a small group, and it's great. And it's great because some nights we're just talking about nothing. But other times, we're sharing what's right here. We're sharing the things that we've been almost afraid to share with someone else. And we're seeing each other for who God has created us to be. And together we're trying to lift each other up, right? We're trying to get that iceberg up out of the water so that the world can see who God has created you to be. And groups are a great way to do that. Now, at the heart of discipleship, it's becoming fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ, that we will live a life like Jesus. So how do we do that? I know you can't give away what you don't have. So that means we got to come back to the source of it all. That means we got to come back to Him. That's what it's all about. I can't do any of this on my own. You got to come back to Jesus, because we're not alone in this. He always goes before us.
And just thinking about what Sean was talking about and leading by example, and even the mentor saying, I see you and I believe in you. I think so many times that can be Jesus and his approach to us. And the song that we're going to sing is called Defender. And it really just talks about how God goes before us. And sometimes he goes before us and fights the battles that we don't even realize that he's fighting. And so I just pray that as we sing this song, you just allow the lyrics to just resonate in your heart and really just allow you to connect to him in this moment and really saying, God, I realize that it's so much better your way. You go before, I know that you've even gone to end my war. You come back with the head of my enemy. You come back and you call it my victory. Oh, you go before, I know that you've even gone to end my war. Your love becomes my greatest defense. It leads me from the dry wilderness, and all I did was pray. All I did was worship. All I did was bow down. All I did was stay still. And hallelujah, you have saved me. So much better this way. And hallelujah, great defender. So much better this way. And you know before I do where my heart can seek to find your truth. Your mercy is the shade I'm living in. And you restore my faith and hope again. And all I did was praise. All I did was worship. All I did was bow down, yeah.
knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my heart. And when I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my heart. And when I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your love. You picked up all my pieces, put me back together. You are the defender of my when I thought I lost me, you knew where I left me. You reintroduced me to your heart. You picked up all my pieces, put me back. You're the defender. It's so much better your way. So much better your way. It's so much better your way. So much better your way.
Will you pray with me? Jesus, may we fully understand how good your way is. May we be people that continually search after you, Jesus. Show us your way, God. Show us a life of love. Show us what it means to be Jesus with skin onto someone else. May we imitate you, God. But may we come back to the heart of knowing you. May we not lose that. May we fight for that. May we go after that with everything we've got. Because that's where we find ourselves. We find us in you, Jesus. And I pray that you continue to show your way to us, God. We love you. We thank you, God. You're an amazing God. In your precious and holy name, amen. And I pray that you will continue to go after God. May that be the most important intentional relationship in your life. But I do encourage you to step into that with other people, whether that be to step into a group maybe for the first time. If so, stop by the table. The team is there. They would love to talk with you. Our prayer team is here today as well, so if you want someone to pray with you, please come on down. But if you're looking for a way to maybe just do the next thing with someone, maybe invite them next week to come back. We're starting a brand new series. It's called Why Bible. What we're talking about is the Bible relevant? Is it applicable to your life? So come back, join us. Hope you have an awesome day. Be blessed. Thank you.